Beep beep. What is up, guys? My name is Sam World. It's a way better day than yesterday. Yesterday I felt all tired and like I just didn't want to live that day. But now today I woke up a little bit more refreshed. Now today, guys, what we're gonna be doing is pretty simple. We're gonna be doing a mix down of our track. Maybe get a part of it done today and then work on the rest next time. But essentially, to do this, we're going to be using a cool little plugin called Reference. Now, Reference is going to be similar to what I teach you guys, utilizing span to match frequencies, making sure everything is good. But the thing I like about Reference is the fact that we can level match the tracks, and we can also get a little bit more of sense of whether our track is more compressed than the original or the reference track, or less compressed. If we have more mids, more highs, the stereo image, you're going to find that all inside of here. You should see this as information that's going to allow you to make educated decisions on how you're going to mix down your track, okay? Again, you know, referencing is a big thing when it comes to mixing, making music. Big artists are doing it, so why shouldn't you? So what we're going to do is pretty simple, guys. The first thing is that we're going to get rid of a master on our track. So that we can actually do a proper mix down on it. The next thing we're going to do is, since our track is not mastered, not loud, as compared to these tracks like You Little Beauty and Rock the House by Shiva-san, we're going to have to level match them. So at the top right of Reference, you're going to find this nice little thing here that you can click. It's going to level match it for us. So that way, loudness doesn't play a factor in the information that Reference gives you. Reference is going to get our track. It's going to grab the references, and it's going to level match them. So again, loudness doesn't play a huge role when we make our decisions. Now, we're going to click reset here and go to this part of our song where we have a loop.
After party. After party. After party. After party.
Now, as you saw, the lines were moving up and down. They were in the center. So the more center this white line is, the more balance we have, similar to that of a reference track. And we're switching between both of these here. Essentially, if the white line is above, you have more frequencies than the reference. And if it's below, you have less than the reference. Once you start to see those little pink dots happen, if the pink dots are going away from the white line, that means that your track is more dynamic, more punchier than the reference track. And sometimes, again, we want to get that tight vibe. We need to have almost the same compression as the reference tracks do. Pink dots coming inward instead of outward means that we are more compressed. Now, since we're in the mixing stages and we haven't done mastering, obviously the other tracks are going to be a bit more heavily compressed, but we can still make decisions ourselves on how we want to approach it, okay? With that being said, at the top here, you're going to see the stereo images. The white one is going to be us. The reference is going to be at the bottom, I believe. And then from there, you can move around the frequency bands if that's what you want. For instance, we can have the lows of our track. Then we can have the mid-lows right here and set like a point there. And then we can maybe have this like so. That way we have a bit of balance, 100 to 500, 0 to 100, and vice versa. So now let's get it to work on this. We're going to click mirror mode as well here so that we are in the same position as the other track.
After party. After party. After party. After party. After party. After party.
So as you can see from this graph, what we can see pretty much is that our low end is kind of there. When we reference to the Shiva-san one, we have a little less than his. And when we reference with You Little Beauty, we're kind of there with Fisher in terms of the low end. Now, one thing that we must see is similarities in both. So if we go
After party. After party. After party. After party.
So there's a couple of similarities in both, and it's going to have to deal with our mid-highs and our highs. Obviously, we need more high frequencies in this on our track because both references have way more highs than ours do. The next thing is this guy here, the 500 to, let's say, 3K range. We are a bit too loud in that range, so we're going to have to figure out what is causing that. Okay, so the first thing is the highs is an easy one to target. We just need more high frequencies. Some people might go and put EQ8 on the master and just boost the highs, and that is fine, but we want to target the specific source. And for me, I feel like that's going to come from our drums, and it's going to come from mainly our open hat. It needs a little bit more vibe, so you want to make sure that you have the same stuff going on as you do in the references. So what we're going to do is just reference the high so that way I don't get copyrighted. So you can kind of see we definitely need a little bit more of spark up there. So that's going to maybe deal with saturation. So that's the first thing we're going to do. And that all has to deal with the only thing giving us highs, which is going to be our beautiful open hat. So what I'm going to do is probably go on the open hat and EQ that. And we're going to maybe try and add
After party. 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 After party.
Okay, what I'm going to do is get rid of the vocal for now because those tracks might not have vocals there, and maybe that's what's causing that boost in this area for me. So we're going to go in with maybe where that vocal is located at, which is right here. Let's mute it for now. So we're just going to mute it. It's a little better. Way better now. Now the next thing here, as you can see, we do need a bit of maybe compression on our mid-lows and our mid-highs there. So with that, maybe we can add a bit of compression to our drums, which are found here. So for that, let's just use the glue from Ableton, just a little bit. So that can also be our bass causing some issues there. So maybe we can kind of go in, compress the bass a bit more. That bass right here, I think, is causing some of the issues in our mid-lows. So we need to figure out how we can kind of get that to sound a little tighter. The first thing is we might use OTT or something, but it just might be a bit too punchy, too dynamic. So what I'm going to do is maybe lower attack a bit on that bass. So for me, it's just that area there, 500 to, yeah, that's the area that I'm really struggling with. Let's try adding maybe a bit of saturation and see if it does anything good for us. So we're just gonna. Way better now, way better. We are in the frequency of, let's see, F sharp, right? So yeah, so that 500 range might be just our open hat. Maybe it just needs more amp there. That's going to be the issue. Okay, there, the only issue that seems to happen is that we might have a bit too much on that hat, so maybe another compressor. Hopefully it doesn't negate what we just did. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is just level this out to -6. I hate how it's clipping, so I'm just going to... like so. Let's bring the drums down. Let's level match it again. There we go, a lot better. Now let's move to another part of the song where maybe we can start to get a little bit more stuff in and go from
After party. After party.
I'm not going to focus on this here and this because obviously we do have that vocal that comes in and out. So that's totally fine to have that increase, especially since we have the synth as well. As long as it's not overly the top, we should be fine. But in essence,
After party. After party.
trying to get those high frequencies up.
After party.
Perfect.
After party. After party.
So I'm pretty good with the Shiva Sound one. You can see that it's kind of balancing. We're starting to get similar compression rates and similar EQ frequency, except for that low end. But when you go to the You Little Beauty by Fisher, we see you have too much. So I'm going to assume this low end right now we have is fine. The only thing is maybe just the highs just need to be a little bit more like, So we need to figure that out. The only thing that's giving me highs is this.
After party.
All right, now let's fast forward maybe to the break and see what these effects are going to do for us. I think I do have some effects here. That's weird that we didn't have any, but we're going to try
After party.
now in the break of the song. And for this, we're actually going to use Fisher more because Fisher actually asked for a similar breakdown to us.
After party. After party. Meet me at the after party. After party.
This is fine. This is what I'm looking at. This is perfectly good.
After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. Meet me at the after party.
Alright, the bass does something where it opens up too much, so let's get rid of that. Fucking hell, man. We don't want the bass to open up that much, so let's just get rid of that. We're just gonna have it how we had it here, preferably. So that's like that, like this.
After party, meet me at the after party. After party. After party. After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. After party.
Okay, so let's focus on this a bit. It's gonna get annoying because we're gonna repeat that a bit, but we just gotta see that response where we can. Okay, so maybe on this guy just a bit on the. It's a bit better now. Alright, so we're gonna move out of that part now. Let's see what other sounds do we have that we need to kind of mess with. Let's
After party, meet me at the after party. After party. After party.
There we go. Okay, cool. From here, last one I'm going to try is this, even though there might be a bit more because we're going to introduce a Reese and they're not. So, again, we're using that information to kind of just make educated decisions on the It's okay that we don't have these highs because Fisher opts to have the open hat and the ride and the break. We don't, so that's why we don't have those.
Meet me at the after party. After party. 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 After party. After party. Meet me at the after party.
All right, what I'm going to do is add these mastering on just to see how that sounds like, all those changes we have made. Well, that sounds loud.
After party. Meet me at the after.
So this is where the magic happens.
Meet me at the after party. After party.
So you can kind of see once we add that master, it starts to get a bit too much. So let's maybe get rid of that T-Rack.
After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. After party. After party. After party.
So let's see, do a bit on them highs. They got a little too fucking. Ugh.
After party. Meet me at the after party. After party.
Way better. There we go.
After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. party.
There we go.
After party. After party.
Okay, dope. There's one more thing bothering me that I'm gonna fix, and that's when the bass itself decides to go up. It causes this weird rumble in my speaker, and it's gonna be in the bass. So I'm gonna fix that fairly easily. Now, I didn't explain this R bass too much, guys, and I apologize for that. I was in the zone and I just stopped like talking. But the R bass, what it's supposed to do, it's supposed to add more harmonics to your bass. So I set the frequency to 43 around there, which should be in the key of F sharp, which we are in. From there, we increase the intensity up a bit, and that's going to allow to give more low end. What I find with a lot of FM bass lines like this, they tend to lack a lot of low end, but they tend to give you more mid lows. And that's something that was just not cutting it for the track. So this is where this R bass comes in handy. Just a little bit of intensity. This is going to tell you the amount of harmonics that we are adding with this Renaissance bass on it. But in essence, it did a huge difference on that low. It gave it more meat down there. Now the next thing I want to do is just fix something. Let's get rid of this glue for now. So we're gonna go with neutron EQ. The reason we go with that is it's gonna be a dynamic EQ, and it's only gonna do this change whenever this happens. But when we hit that up there too high, it's causing issues for me. I don't like it. So what I'm gonna do is just fix it like so. We're gonna go to high F sharp if we can. That part right. With it off, it's gonna be a little cleaner. Now let's. I'm gonna apply my sonar work, so careful.
After party. After party. After party. After party.
I'm gonna level the bass off a little bit.
After party. After party.
When that's that's the main issue on that bass right now. That's really bothering me. Maybe lower the. That's maybe the biggest one. This one. That's what we have to figure out. Why? How we can fix that. A bit better. Let me put the SonarWorks on because I can hear what. So much better.
After party. After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. After party. After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. After party. After party. After party. Meet me at the after party. After party.
Okay, so the only thing now I have issues with this is just this area.
After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. After party. After party. Meet me at the after party. After party.
So let's try doing this.
After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. After party.
All right, so let's unfocus from the synths for a bit and go over here where there's no synth shots. That's going to give us the best representation of if that's going to help a lot or not.
Meet me at the after party. After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. Meet me at the after party.
So yeah, a bit too much on the highs there. Better. All right, now let's go to the meat of the track.
After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. After party. After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. After party. Meet me at the after party. Meet me at the after party. 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 After party. Meet me at the after party.
Okay, let's check a couple more things with the You Little Beauty one because we did focus more on the Shiva Sound one. Let's see what this one tells us, and we should be done for today.
After party.
Of course, Fisher would have a lot more fucking highs though. Okay, let's.
After party.
There we go. That seems more like it.
After party. After party.
Now we're gonna move it one more time over here.
After party. Meet me at the after party.
The volume goes down because this is level matching them.
After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. Meet me at the after party. After party. Meet me at the after. After party. Meet me at the after party.
All right, so we're gonna save it right here, guys. Essentially, we use reference. There's still a couple things reference in saying like the Fisher one is heavily more compressed. However, when it comes to the Shiba-san one, we're kind of there with him in terms of stuff. Now, I do have some issues with the low end. That's the biggest fret that I'm getting right now. It's that low end. So I don't know if I need to go with a sub instead and then have this be separate from the sub to get a cleaner low end. But as of now, it sounds pretty good. When I put my Sonar Works on, which is a different tool that calibrates my room so I can actually hear it a little better, that's when I start to run into those low end issues here and there. So I might have to fix certain things in that area to get it to sound as good as possible with that calibration on. But after that, I think I should be good to kind of continue this idea a bit more, refine a couple of things that I'm hearing that I'm not liking, like for instance these weird horny not that these little effect shots that we get. There's just too much reverb on them, let's face it. So, and we also need to lower down. All right, guys, so again, I apologize for not talking that much, but if I have to explain everything that we did, essentially we played around with the drums trying to get them to sound good. The hat was a bit too thin, so we did add a bit in the 681 area. That seemed to amp it up a bit. So if we go in, gave it a little bit more smack, so that helped a ton. The next thing was the clap. I believe we didn't do much to it. We did try to, but nope. Clap sounds pretty good, actually, so we don't need to mess around with that. Now, on the drum buzz, we did add our saturation. This is heavily important as you're So this glue compressor is essentially going to be more of catching the peak. So that clap was... So we wanted to kind of, hey, calm down a bit. You know, you got to play with the rest, don't overshadow. So that's what that glue compressor is doing. The saturator, we're just saturating, adding more harmonics to it to get it to sound a little bit more exciting. The next thing we did was the bass. That's where we did most of the... This sounds fine, but once we had that art, we get a little bit more meat down there. Again, with FM bass lines, give and take, man. You get that FM vibe, but it's hard to get that low end right now and then, just due to the way that the FM bass lines work. And it also has to do a lot with the FM and what you're using for it. So here we're using FT add 2 seconds. That's giving us some nice sounds, but again, it's kind of crippling our bass a bit, so we had to add that R bass. The next thing we did is we used the Neutron 2 equalizer, 2 bands, and it's in dynamic mode. What that means is that it's not going to EQ down like you see there. It's going to do it when it needs to do-do-do-do-doop, and now it does it do-do-do-do-doop heavily right there. That helped a ton. It just has so much more balance. It sounds a little bit tighter, more refined. So that was a good one to do there. We didn't do much to the kick bass. We forgot to turn that on. Okay. Let's see, what else did we tackle on? Other than that, on the master, we did add this sort of EQ because I couldn't figure this out. So I reduced a bit on the 500 to 1,000 areas. So 625 in the center of that. And that helped. It gave the kick a little bit more of an elevation. It's crazy how that works, right? When we get rid of it and we just hear this really fast. It made that shot a little bit like more like it actually fit the mix rather than just being on top of it. So we're going to keep it like this. Now, when we do the official master, because we are going to be getting rid of ozone and our T-Racks, and we're going to go with a proper master. We're going to, use a limiter, use some EQ maybe that we already have, maybe a bit of imaging and whatnot. It's going to definitely sound a lot better than just going with the ozone and the T-Racks like we have now. But other than that, I hope you find this useful, guys. I'll try and put like a table of contents for you guys for the video just so that you guys can go to the part you want. I understand, making these videos is kind of hard because I'm all getting caught up in making this sound the best that I can. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I have to explain some of that stuff, and it's kind of like I get lost. Like, wait, dude, no, I gotta get this right first before I say anything, and then I forget to talk about it. But hopefully, you guys enjoyed this video on getting the mix right, and we'll go from there, guys. There's still a lot more to do. Still a lot more to improve on the track, but we'll see where this journey takes us, because at the end of the day, guys, I want you guys to have fun making music. A lot of this stuff that I was doing, I don't want you guys to get frustrated. I did get a little, but once you figure it out and you finally go like, that little change, dude, oh my God, it sounds better. You get like this sort of boost of adrenaline or endorphins that just makes you feel happier and keeps you going. So again, Reference is going to be a cool one. I'm not sponsored by them, but if you guys do want to pick it up, you can find it on their website in the mix. Reference, it's great. And along with SonarWorks, it helps. So SonarWorks is a little bit more pricey, and honestly, you don't need it. I just like to have it for, again, that calibration, so I can A and B this in different places without having to go to my car. With that being said, ninjas, you guys take care, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace out.